Now, you're also interested, you mentioned taxidermy. I know you're also interested in taxidermy. Do you see that as an art form, and do you see that how that impacts our understanding of nature?
Yeah, that's a very fascinating question in the sense that the discussion on the status of taxidermy as art or not originated in the 19th century. As soon as the quality of taxidermy mounts improved and the realism became lifelike, many supporters of taxidermy in different natural history museums, especially in the UK, began to advocate the elevation of taxidermy to a proper form of art that should be exhibited at the Paris Salon, for instance. And of course, there was resistance from the art world to embrace taxidermy as a true form of art.
Yeah, I'm feeling that resistance here. Explain this to me. How does it qualify?
Well, it's grounded in an indexical route that I researched for my book, Speculative Taxidermy, because I wanted to get to the bottom of that question. It's like, okay, but I looked at Canova sculptures, and you look at mythical figures, and you think, well, there's animal parts that are animals that are sculpted, so why a sculpted animal can be art when an animal is sculpted by Canova, but the same animal is not considered art when we use the animal's skin to cover its surface. And that is the turning point. Classical art is based on a concept of transubstantiation, which means that you have to transform your subject from one material to one that it's completely alien to it for it to classify as art. So marble, bronze, clay, great. We're halfway there. Then for it to really qualify as art, it has to be good. But with taxidermy, the use of the animal's skin declasses it into a craft dimension. And in a sense, it is not a fair classification because Carl Eckley was the father of modern taxidermy, was an artist. And he sculpted, he was the first one to sculpt proper, detailed anatomical models instead of wrapping around bundles of straw and wool to create lumps around which the animal skin was stretched. So underneath any of the beautiful taxidermy mounts we see at the New York Museum of Natural History or the Field Museum in Chicago, there's a wonderful sculpture with vein and muscles and talons, and technically it is art.
Interesting. It's almost the way you would look at the Venus de Milo if it still had the paint on it, right? A lot of those old
very good analogy.
Still
yes.
Had,
yes.
That's really...
And all the misconception, of course, that follows because we saw them white. And
Well, what about dioramas then?
Dioramas, which came about towards the beginning of the last century. I thought we tend to believe that they're much older. I'm thinking about dioramas, the complex ones with a painted
Natural
backdrop.
History Museum.
Yeah, again, another
like that,
invention that's credited to Carl Eckley. They are just the quintessential convergence of so many art forms, from theater to photography, painting, and sculpture. So once again, you can see how claiming that a diorama is not art or that taxidermy is not art, it's a very difficult argument to win unless we follow the tradition of art history and the subdivision into genres and then the division into art and crafts. And dioramas just represent, in essence, our conception of nature today. They still capture that separation, and that separation is in the glass, which not only, of course, the glass was positioned in front of the diorama to keep out pests, children, dust, anything that might deteriorate the quality of the representation. But from a philosophical perspective, we can understand this glass, as many artists have done it through their work. I'm thinking of Diane Fox using the reflection on the glass to evidence the artifice. That artifice, that glass, really is our inability to engage with the more than human world that is represented by us in any other way but objectification. In the dioramas, we have turned those animals into lifeless objects, And that's the paradox of the Natural History Museum. We go there to see nature, but everything inside that building is dead. And the diorama is usually built in the frame of the architectural structure of the building, is unchangeable, is forever. And it represents a kind of pure and pristine nature from which we are implicitly excluded. Donna Haraway talked extensively about these complications, and I think that becomes the ecological issue that we still face today when we embrace processes of rewilding, for instance. What nature are we aiming to return to, since it's impossible to return to anything after we interact with the more than human world?
Can't step in the same river twice, right?
Exactly.